Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is jpleeVE, ETF product manager at Van Eck, to discuss the hot video game sector and if it can continue its momentum in 2021. JP, it's great to have you with us. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thank you very much for having me, Jill.
You got it. And in a lot of ways, 2020 was a breakout year for the video game sector. Video game stocks were up big, outperformed the market in a highly volatile year with a lot of risks. Can video games continue their hot streak? What does 2021 look like? Because if my house is any indication, the answer is pretty clear.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that's good anecdotal evidence for what we're talking about here. So 2020 was a great year for video games. 2021, we're looking for continued growth in revenues, users, and engagement. And I think right now what is on a lot of people's mind is the vaccine adoption, the reopening. In a lot of ways, video games were a big part of the work from home trade. We saw that as an acceleration of trends that were already in place. So when you see like a revenue chart, it's going good, and then it goes up, a lot last year, and and that was reflected in the stock prices of a lot of the video game companies out there. So that's step one. We're bullish for 2021. Step two, mobile gaming should continue to dominate industry revenues and provide the most growth by segment. So when you think about the different segments, you have the PC segment, the console segment, and mobile is the biggest category and fastest growing. A lot of that is actually coming from emerging markets, countries like China, India, Indonesia, Brazil. Huge mobile gaming market, massive mobile adoption, and then demographics are also playing a huge part there because those countries are generally younger and more prone to mobile adoption and play games. We're going to see continued growth in secondary gaming related services like Twitch, Discord. Twitch is a live streaming website where people play video games and watch other people play video games. Discord is a chat service and a voice chat. So those platforms and those websites rely on video games as a breakout, but people are using them more and more. So I continue to see that in 2021. Finally, cloud gaming is coming into play. Cloud gaming is when you don't have to buy the console, you don't have to buy the PC. All you need is an internet connection and a subscription service. So Google Stadia is an example of that. So cloud gaming is going to come more into play. And I think as a result of that, you're going to see more M&A activity, more mergers, more acquisitions coming from a lot of the conglomerates. You saw that in 2020 with Microsoft buying ZeniMax Studios. What they're doing is setting themselves up for the long term. They're setting themselves up to be a premium cloud gaming provider because the name of the game is at this point, what exclusives do you have? So the more exclusives a cloud provider can offer, the more incentive there is to somebody to choose that cloud service. So we're going to see more M&A activity as the mid-tier development studios get bought up by the conglomerates and the bigger publishing houses.
Yeah, and that definitely makes it more exciting. I also think they've done such a great job with building that social component in with it that it's almost like you are sitting with your buddies in the family room and playing the game. So I don't think that's going to go away just because we have vaccination through the population either. But in the last few months, there have been some high profile IPOs in the video game space with potentially more to come. Can you provide some highlights of the video game IPO market? When will some of these new IPOs come into the ESPO ETF?
Sure. So let's go to the big ones last year that came out. Unity Software, largest gaming IPO in history, $40 billion. It's a video game development engine. So this is a pick and shovel trade, right? This is a video game development engine heavily used by mobile game developers. Since its IPO in September, it's up over 100%. Key takeaways for Unity, in my opinion, it's mobile focused. So going back to those key themes, it's latched onto the key theme of mobile growth. It's an unprofitable company at this point, which is also kind of a sign of the times. But then the stock run up, and I think the future expectations of growth for Unity are there. This is a growing industry, and Unity is playing a big part of that growth. Corsair Gaming is another IPO that came out in September. This is a hardware peripherals company. So think about keyboards, mice, headsets, things like that, gaming accessories. Also up 100% since its IPO. Key highlights for Corsair are that it's not an esports company, but they have a close relationship with the esports ecosystem through sponsorships, right? So if you're an esports person who follows esports, Corsair is because they're spending a lot of money advertising and sponsoring leagues and tournaments and things like that, teams. This is a profitable company, unlike Unity. So they're already making money, and I think that it's just another example of the type of company that's in the ecosystem. 2021, we're expecting Roblox to IPO in the next few months. Roblox is a very popular game. It's a video game and platform that allows users to create their own games and then sell it to other Roblox players. So it's a user-generated video game content platform. It's a very unique company. They delayed their IPO that was set for the end of 2021 based on what they saw in the, they don't want to come to market at $40 and then have the stock be trading at $80 by the end of the day. So they wanted to delay their IPO to 2021, let things kind of settle down, maybe reset their IPO price. Key highlights for Roblox: user-generated content, which is huge. It's a huge theme that's coming out. It's also an unprofitable company. One little wrinkle for Roblox was interesting. One of the things we talk about is video gamers are not 12-year-olds with their parents' credit cards, right? These are people who are 25 to 30 years old, playing video games, spending their money, people with jobs. For Roblox, their user base is 9 to 15-year-old for the most part. So it's kind of an interesting wrinkle in the story, but I think over the long term, we would expect Roblox to do whatever they can to get new users in and then keep those users who might be 14, 15 playing into their late teens and 20s. So they have some interesting challenges compared to the other companies. Having said, after that quick review, when you think about the VanEck Vectors Video Gaming and Esports ETF, ticker ESPO, this is a passive ETF. It tracks an index. So the new names will come in and should come in if they meet the index inclusion rules, which essentially means they have to be big enough, they have to be liquid enough, and then they have to fall above the 90% threshold that the index provider sets for inclusion. So Unity, for example, IPO in September, it came into the index in December, so now it's in the portfolio. Corsair IPO, it did not come in because it did not meet that 90% threshold. So I think the summary for IPOs is it's up to the index provider, we're following the rules, and then we're not adding names mid-cycle, right? So if something comes in on the day after the rebalance, it's not going to come into the index until the next rebalance period happens.
All right, and to wrap up here, we've established that video game stocks have been doing well. We expect it to continue doing well, even on the other side of the pandemic. What are some risks to that thesis?
I think the return to normalcy risk is right now on the top of everybody's mind, right? So I think what people are afraid of is the vaccine comes out today, and then people can go out, to go out in the town tomorrow, and they're going to stop playing video games. There is something to be said about that with regards to the valuations. As a general rule, these companies are growth stocks. Growth stocks have high PEs, higher valuations, low dividends, things like that. So their price is being based on expectations of future growth. So when the vaccine does come out, there will be some downward revisions to some of these companies' forward-looking estimates. And I think you saw that when the vaccine news came out first in November. The vaccine news came out on Sunday, like, okay, we have a vaccine, something on the table that's coming, right? And on Monday and Tuesday of that week, the ETF was down about 8%. So I would expect to see some kind of a pullback or kind of a breather once the vaccine comes out and the thing gets rolling. But having said that, just like you said, your kids, they're not going to stop playing video games just because the vaccines are out, right? This is a habit, and people are playing video games as a habit. It's a part of their daily lives. And if you look at the long-term trends, that is not going away. This is how people are entertaining themselves and really interacting with each other in a very social way, which I'm glad you brought up. One other risk that is out there for video game companies is the single game risk. Essentially, that means if your revenues are all tied to a single game, you are at risk if that game fails. So over the holiday season, developer publisher CD Projekt Red released their highly anticipated game, Cyberpunk 2077. For all intents and purposes, they don't really have a deep lineup of different games, right? They were planning on Cyberpunk being a huge hit and getting great reviews and everybody loving it, which was going to help their stock price. Unfortunately, we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty details, but the launch did not go as planned. The game did not meet expectations for fans, and the stock price fell as much as 50%, is now down around 30% from their hot highs earlier in 2020. So the takeaway here is it's imperative for these larger organizations to diversify their lineup across titles and platforms. So you need to have different titles, different games across PC, console, mobile. So you need to be well diversified, because what happens is if your new game that you've been banking on comes out and it's not a hit, then your stock price is going to suffer. So those are just two of the risks we kind of like to talk about and identify that are in the market right now for these types of companies.
All right, JP, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Yep, great to see you. Have a great day. Thank you very much.